Hello, everybody. So good to see you. Natalie Cutler-Welsh here, and I am back with another conscious conversation. So today I'm going to be talking to my amazing friend, Jo Webb. She's over in Australia at the moment. We have done quite a few interviews in the past. I've interviewed her on Reality Check Radio on a number of topics, but this has a slightly different energy. It's not so much an interview, it's more of a conversation, dialogue back and forth. We're so excited to come back and look at your comments as well, so please join us in the conversation and chime in. So Jo, hello, how are things? How's life in Australia?
Life is rosy and it's very bright and sunny and typically what you do imagine Australia to be like. I love it.
So good. All right, let's before we dive in, Jo. When I think of you, I think happiness hustler. That is your business name. When I think of you, I think energy. I think passion. I think truth bombs. So you, like me, like many of the people I work with and adore, are fun, bossy. You have a lovely, fun, bossy energy. And I love that because I feel like in today's world, a lot of people are ready to hear the truth of, even looking at themselves. And they're like, I'm ready to hear, like, what guidance do you have for me? Where do you think I'm kind of stepping like the wrong way? And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics because I recently launched my matchmaking business. It's called Match Me. And we're going to be talking about how to be relationship ready. So, with that being said, can you do a little brief intro about yourself and then dive into any wisdom you've got on the topic?
Oh, thanks, Nat. I love our chats. I love all of our interactions. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jo Webb, otherwise known as the Happiness Hustler. And I am a feminine empowerment leader. I mainly work with women, but there's guys and we've all got that feminine aspect to us, and it's the feminine where we want to lead from. So relationship ready. Everything I talk about, everything I do always comes down to similar things. It's about self-love. It's about knowing yourself. It's about how we communicate in the world. Because how we feel about ourselves and how we communicate actually impacts our life hugely, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we say, but also what we don't say, as well as body language,
Hmm.
as well as what we wear, by the way. So everything is always giving, I think, signals and messages back and forth. And when I launched Match Me, and it's and I say this is my unique area. It's basically old school matchmaking for relationship ready singles. And I thought it would be super fun to dive on, and with who else but you, to talk about what does relationship ready even mean. So I think that's a really good place to start. What does relationship ready even mean? And I'll chime in from my business perspective, but then I would love your thoughts on what that means from an individual perspective. So in my questionnaire, when people apply, it asks them, how relationship ready are you? And what does that mean to you? Because for some people, it means marriage and kids. Like, I want to get married, I want to have kids. Like, they're quite clear on their what that means. For other people, maybe people that are a bit older, they've maybe been married and divorced. They might tick the box that says, I would like to be in a committed relationship with someone. And then they might add some information below. I do not need to live in the same house as this person. I had someone the other day
Hmm.
say to me, I will never again share a bedroom with anyone else. Like, I love having my own bedroom. So relationship ready actually means different things to different people. But in my world, in the business I run, it means being together with one person, not multiple partners, just to
Hmm.
clarify.
But also, what everything you just said then is not necessarily relationship ready. It's what people want in a relationship. And there's a difference. And that's what I'd love to dive into today, because knowing what you want is great, because and knowing what you don't want is awesome. Absolutely having some clarity around all of that and being really truthful about it. Because, even when you just said then, I don't want to ever share a bedroom with someone, we've got to get comfortable with what we want and what we don't want. But there's a little bit of difference between that and then being relationship ready, isn't it? Because it's like, how ready are you actually for a relationship? And are you ready for a fabulous, fantastic, amazing, heartwarming, glowing relationship? Because that's really what we should be aiming for. Not just a mediocrity, not just the relationships that we see around us or what we've known. I want that love story where we're holding hands and we want to be together when we're 80 and we sit on the bench together eating our picnic. I want that. I want laughter and joviality and support and loyalty and friendship. So being relationship ready, what are you bringing into the relationship? First and foremost, how do you feel about yourself? Because how you feel about yourself is what you will invite in. And that's what the first place I would look. That's the number one step. How do you honestly, truly feel about yourself? Do you fully love yourself? Are you fully taking responsibility for your life? Are you in radical responsibility? Do you hold yourself accountable for things? Are you forgiving of yourself? Have you shed some of that shame and guilt and that societal expectations and conditioning and programming? That's the first place to start.
Joe, it's interesting because I absolutely agree with you, but I think some people might be like, "Oh my goodness, no," and then they'll never be relationship ready. I feel like we all always have work to do, meaning there's always ways that we can really relook at ourselves, and as we evolve over time, we can kind of reimagine different ways of how we want to show up and make adjustments. But I think you're right. I think sometimes if we haven't dealt with some things, we're going to carry them forward into this next relationship. Do you find that people tend to repeat the same pattern?
Absolutely. And it will always be packaged slightly different. But at the end of it, how many cycles have you experienced, whether it's in relationships or work or with friends? It's often packaged slightly different, but then you go, oh, I've done it again. It's just happened again. I'm round feeling exactly the same as I felt 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. We absolutely do repeat what we have not healed. And as you said, I hear what you said about what everything I just brought to the table then, and that probably seems like a really big prospect to some people. But again, it's like, okay, I am willing to work on myself. That's
Mm.
one of the biggest things. I'm willing to be open. I'm willing to be a teammate because there's a lot of people in relationships that are not in a team. They want all the joys of relationships. They want the comfort and there's somebody there, but there's no teamwork. And I believe a relationship works best as a team.
I feel
And that's
like
a
part of it,
willingness
it's
to.
such a beautiful fusion in terms of relationship readiness of knowing who you are and being really happy. Like you started off saying, how much do you love yourself? That's a hard question for a lot of people to answer. So I feel like it's this beautiful fusion of knowing who you are and clarity on what you want, like what you truly desire in a relationship. And I don't mean brown hair, this height, I don't mean that, but I mean the energy of it and how you want to feel, and also clarity on what you do not want. And I think part of that is, have you learned the lesson from these previous relationships? And like you said, some people just repeat the pattern and they end up with it's packaged differently, but it's the same lesson. So I feel like part of being relationship ready, I would say, would be, have you reflected and gleaned the gold, learned the lesson from the previous relationship or the ones that came before, and now you're going to show up differently. You are a different person having processed that rather than hanging on to that. Have you enabled yourself to learn the lesson? Because then we're coming from a place of enhanced wisdom, but also a gratitude rather than negative animosity
Mhm.
towards someone from the past.
For sure. And like, if you can ask yourself, if you can sit there and honestly answer this question, say, where was my responsibility in my past relationships? Because it's always a two-way streak. There is never 100% blame on somebody else. It just doesn't work like that. And if there is still 100% blame, I suggest you have not healed and there is still some work to do. Because if you cannot see where you are responsible, when maybe it was, I didn't set my standards, I didn't have my boundaries, and I let my boundaries fly lower than what they should have been. And that's taking responsibility. That's going back into your empowerment stage. So again, as you said, you glean those um, lessons and wisdom and growth from past relationships and past experiences, absolutely. But sit with yourself honestly and say, can I honestly see where I was responsible for some of the things that have happened in my life? Because at the end of the day, we are in the driver's seat of our life. And that's where we want to be. But most people are in the passenger seat or even in the back seat and they're being taken along for the ride.
Or they're like
If you want to
hitchhiking on
be
the
in a
side of the road.
yeah, they're desperate just to get somewhere. And it's like, if you really want to be in this, like, I truly believe, Nat, that relationships are sacred. And this unity that happens, whether it's a man and a woman, a man and a man, a woman, whatever, whoever, But we take on these roles and it can be truly sacred when we come into a relationship with intention.
Hmm.
You know, another question to ask yourself, am I ready to be transparent? Because that's, how many walls around me do I have built up? And it's not even about yourself. Sometimes well, it's always about yourself, but it's like, how transparent can you be? It's like, there's too many. I see a lot of people. I've done a lot of couples work as well. There's a lot of things happening. Are you happy to be transparent with all of your friendships? Are you happy to tell your partner that you text your work colleague 10 times a day? Are you happy to tell your partner that you've got like this little fling from the past that you're still in touch with, and they're just there in the background? Are you happy to be transparent to yourself about everything that you are doing in life? Because all of that energy comes with you into a relationship. So are you ready just to kind of wipe the slate clean and walk into a relationship and go, I'm ready to be fully transparent? Because if you can be transparent, at least the other person has a choice whether that's for them or not. We don't want to go into a relationship hiding anything of ourselves or our life. Does that make sense?
It does. And interestingly, because I do these one-on-one, it's not an interview, it's really just a meeting to clarify what they've written in their questionnaire and to get a sense of their energy and what they're looking for. And I had someone say, there's a big difference between honesty and transparency. And I was like, absolutely. And what she really meant by
Mm.
that, which chimes into what you're saying, she meant, I've been with someone who was honest if I asked them a direct question, but they weren't transparent. Like they
Mhm.
weren't forthcoming with things. And so I feel like, yes, that's a very valid point. And so when someone's
Mhm.
been had a negative experience along those lines, coming into something new, for them to be relationship ready, they're very clear. I want honesty and transparency from my partner.
Yeah. And you might be coming into a relationship still with things that are definitely not healed, because healing is not linear. We do some work and then something might fire up and we're triggered right back to where we were 20 years ago, whatever. But if you can be honest with that person, if that person is willing to also show up in in emotional maturity, and you are able to communicate through these things, that's where magic happens. Because at the end of the day, when we do have a partnership, our nervous systems generally align together. You feed off each other's nervous systems. So when yours is in turmoil, which it will be from time to time, if that other person can hold you safe, isn't that a beautiful thing? And you do it vice versa for the other person. That's emotional maturity. That is emotional maturity within a relationship, and that's the ideal, really.
And people will get triggered. That is what happens. I've got, I love my acronyms and my alliteration. I've got two C's. I've actually got five, but I'm just going to share two C's around relationships and matchmaking and really having connection. Well, one of them is connection, but curiosity. And so curiosity, I feel, is a real it's a golden gem within a relationship, because if someone's triggered, rather than being angry and sad, which they're totally allowed to be, and it's great to feel those feelings and express them and move on, but to be curious and to go, wow, that is fascinating that I was so triggered by what just happened there when that woman came up to him, when we were at the restaurant, or the way that he spoke to the waiter, or whatever it might be. Right. So
Yeah.
curiosity, I feel, so that's a constant state of learning and being open. And that's similar to what you were just saying about learning, because things will come up. So if we can maintain a constant sense of curiosity, rather than judgment, I suppose, about what has happened, then that can really help a relationship not just to happen, but to carry on and for people to grow closer over time. What are your thoughts on that about curiosity?
Oh, I love the word curiosity. It's one of my favorite words. It's one of my catchphrases too, Nat, because when we think we know something, then that's dangerous territory. When we assume things, it's dangerous territory. When we try to preempt things, dangerous territory. But and again, as we're viewing the world, as you just said, we do get triggered. We've all got jealousy, we've all got rage, we've all got bitterness, we've all got hatred inside of us, because they're all parts of the human emotions. That's okay, but we've also all got joy and bliss and laughter and fun as well. We've got the whole spectrum, and that's okay. But it's as you say, when you are able to stand, and that is part of where the heal when we do some work on ourselves and we do some healing, it is a skill that can be learned to stop, because there is magic in that pause, isn't there? So when we do get triggered, to go, ooh, I always thank my triggers. That's one of the things I do first. I go, ooh, thank you. Because again, it stops me from spiraling into that crazy kind of moment. And as soon as I thank it, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm aware of it now. I'm really consciously aware. I'm not going to go into my subconscious programming. I'm consciously aware I've been triggered. This is interesting. And again, interesting because it's curious, isn't it?
Mm.
When we're curious, we're always interested because we're ready to learn more. We're ready to learn more about ourselves and the world and our partner, which is fabulous.
One other C, I do have five, but I'm only going to mention two. So I already mentioned connection, won't go into that. But the other one is consumption. And it's interesting when I ask the deal breaker question or the non-negotiables, like what are the things that you're non-negotiable about? And so many people put drugs and alcohol. Some people say excessive weight, like someone that's not healthy with their lifestyle. That comes up a lot.
Mhm.
But consumption can also mean, so yes, it can mean food and it can mean porn and other drugs and things, but also what are you listening to? Right? Consumption can be what is
Mm.
it that that person is consuming? And I feel like part of a relationship in terms of coming together, that's the connection, but also the relationship prospering over time is consumption. Like what are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Are you listening to yourself as well? So there's that innate connection with self that comes into it. And I feel like these are two of the C's that can really help people to be relationship ready and then stay in a relationship.
For sure. And there's so much beautiful things that you can listen to around the relationships. And I love listening to the men talk about relationships when they get really raw about it and their learnings. A lot of that comes up on my feed naturally. And it just, because I obviously do, I see a lot of women. You're one of my really good friends, Nat. We've got this beautiful network of women who are all so raw and vulnerable in their in their flaws as well, in their worst thoughts in their head. We're able to vocalize, and we have you've created a beautiful safe space. I create these beautiful safe spaces for women just to show up. But when I see on the internet, when I see men coming and doing it, it makes my heart swell because more men need more of that in their life.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like I'm excited, going forward 2026, I'm excited for more men to start doing the work. I don't mean to sound judgy, but it's exciting time because I feel like a lot of women like you said in our world because we are living in an entrepreneurial world, we've been doing the personal discovery reflection. Not all women do that. So it's not just a gender thing. I would say people, men and women who are in an entrepreneurial world or possibly a job where they really encourage not just training but deep inner reflection and expansion in that sense. We have been doing this type of thing, and I feel like it's becoming more normalized or more available or more common or more acceptable for everyone to do that kind of stuff. And I've interviewed Matt Castle and I've interviewed Stacey Taylor and many people. So it's exciting to see the men helping the men. But I do think also there's a space for women to work with men in this area as well, which I know is something that you do. What is one of the things that I'm going to say that you think men are struggling with, or that men come to you for help with so that they can not just be relationship ready, but just be the better and more empowered version of themselves?
I think there's just much misconception out there what it is to be a man. And they don't know what standards they're supposed to live up to. And there's so much fear around as well. I've had I wrote an article a while ago about chivalry and or the lack of it while I was having a moment, and not with my partner, but something happened. I was taking the bins down or something, and three builders walked past and nobody helped me. And I was like, "What the heck's going on, guys? What are we doing?" And then some guy wrote back, and it was almost like a violent outburst from them because they had tried to help women and they had been
Yeah,
abused
they've been
by
like, I'm
these
good, I got
strong,
it.
powerful, yeah, but worse than that. And I was like, I apologized to them. I was like, I'm really sorry that's been your experience. And they obviously were really triggered by my post, and it was a safe place to do it. But it's like, I was like, wow, these men, and I mean, it's the same problem for women as well. We think we are different, and we've got to accept we are different. Our brainwaves and how we are made, we are very different, but we also have similar problems. So when we can actually start seeing that and having this compassion for each other, look at the way the world's been. It's been patriarchal, but it's not been on the beautiful side of the masculine. It's been on the negative side of the masculine. And there's most women walking around in the negative feminine or the negative masculine also. So the world's askew, and these men come to me and they're like, I want to be a good man and I want to find a good woman. I want to be a good man, but do you know what they're full of? They're full of rage. They're full of anger because they're not in tune with their soul. Because there's so many shoulds, woulds, and coulds out there that they don't know how to address that. And really, it's all coming back to the same thing. It's coming back to loving yourself, liking yourself, accepting what's happened to be able to catapult forward in a really good way and a good trajectory.
I think one of the things you just mentioned, which was another C, by the way, not one of my C's, chivalry. And I think what you just did there is acknowledge that a lot of the part of that is what the how the women have responded to the men. So it's not just that they don't love themselves or whatever. It's that they've tried to be a man and helping or maybe opening the door or paying the bill or whatever. But there was a time there when a lot of us were younger when we were like, I can do it, I can pay. We were all that, and now we're in our 40s and 50s, and we actually love the idea of being taken care of. So it's confusing for guys. It's very confusing for them how to act, how not to act. And so a lot of them don't know. And fair enough. Chivalry. Every time I mention chivalry, which I do in my one-on-one sessions, because I say, I'm bringing chivalry back. And then I pause and they always go, oh, there's some sort of body language and verbal expression of relief and excitement from both the guys and girls. This is really interesting. I say, I'm bringing chivalry back and pause, and they always go, oh, finally, or good, or amazing. They respond like that. And then I say, I'm going to send that once the woman approves and the guy's happy, then I send her number to the guy and he's going to text you to arrange a time and place to meet for the date. For the man to be the leader and the man to be proactive. And the woman's like, oh, I love the idea of him planning a date and I don't have to do everything. And the guy's like, oh, great. I love having permission to actually to lead. And so they really love that. And I feel like going forward, as things shift, as you mentioned, with the feminine and the masculine, going forward, 2026 and beyond, we're going to see a massive shift in the way that men and women treat and respect and receive love from each other. And I feel like that's a big part of being relationship ready. Comment if you're watching. Let us know your thoughts on chivalry. When I say the word chivalry, are you excited to see more chivalry or be treated in that way or allowed to? Or do you not know what it means? Or do you have bad connotations? We'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Jo, we're going to go for another few minutes, but anything else you want to mention in terms of being relationship ready? Anything specific someone can do if they feel like I really want to have a relationship? I don't know if I'm ready. Like, what is something that they can do to get ready or check if they are?
I'm just going to do one more point on relationship ready. It's about communication.
Yeah.
It's another C. We love our C's,
Yeah.
but communication. It's one of the most vital things. Are you able to even communicate with yourself what you want and need in a relationship? Because that's the first step. Am I relationship ready? Do I even know what I want? How do I know what I would like my relationship to look and feel like? And as you say, it's not the tall, dark, and handsome or buff and whatever, that's nice. You can still put that on your list, absolutely. But what essence do you want your relationship? What emotions and feelings and values? Do you know your own values? That's a huge one as well. Do you even know what your top 5 values are? Because if you bring in a person and their values are totally misaligned with yours, that's not necessarily a match made in heaven, is it? You might have some which intermingle and they might have some more values which are different from yours, and that's okay. But if your top values are totally different, say if your top values family and theirs is independence and freedom, and they don't want family, well, there's no alignment there, is there? So
Can I
what are
have
your top
family
five
and
values?
independence and freedom? That's what I
Yeah,
want.
you can, so long as they mean the same things to
Yeah.
both of you. Does that make sense? So yeah, what are my top values and what does that look like to me?
Yes.
And what do I want in a relationship? How do I want it to feel? What do I want? Do I want the person to be my best friend? Do I want a lot of laughter? Do I want quiet and peace in the house? Do I want them to be a bookworm? Do I want them to be adventurous? What do you want? Be
Adventurous
really
comes up a lot,
honest.
I have to say. And the other one that comes up a lot is EQ, emotional intelligence. That comes up a lot for guys and girls. They both want a partner
Yeah.
who is emotionally intelligent, and kind comes up a lot, and respect.
Yeah. And so, have a look at yourself and then sit with that and go, am I really ready to welcome in somebody? And again, what terms do I want that to be? Do I want it to just be a friendship to begin with? Am I looking for a long-term commitment? Is it the marriage and babies? Is it the live together, not live together, whatever, but ask yourself the questions, but mainly, do you know yourself? And are you ready to turn up in transparency, in honesty, and show your most vulnerable side? And again, and this, because all of this stuff goes a long way because, I've watched dating over the years. I'm nearly 50 now, and I've watched dating. We've gone through having no cell phones to having cell phones to being able to text to being able to hide behind a keyboard. Not like the old-fashioned day where you used to have to go up to somebody and ask somebody out and do it even more courageously. But also there was a lot of game playing in the past as well. Well, you might have been, oh, I'm in work and I'm going to be texting three girls all at the same time and blah, blah, blah. We want to leave all of that behind. You want to come in with this clean slate. You want to come in relationship ready and being able to be vulnerable and open and express your needs and talk about life and how you want it to be. And if the other person, if it's not received by the other person, that's okay. It's because you know yourself, you love yourself. And if it's not received that well, you're like, okay, well, that's all right then. But the next one might receive it with open arms. So be open, be vulnerable.
All right. So both you and I can help people if they are wanting to be more relationship ready. Can you talk about your checklist? I know you've got a great checklist for people.
Yeah, I've got a beautiful checklist because obviously we've bounced around things. We've probably missed a lot of stuff off. There's lots of other things to go into, but I've just put together a little check sheet with bullet points. So it's just easy to read questions that you can ask yourself on all of the topics we've talked about. And it's just a little freebie. We'll just put the link below. So if you want that, if you
So is
want that,
this a
and if you
how to
think
know if you're relationship ready checklist?
yeah. So relationship readiness. Am I ready for a relationship? And it's a good thing to do anyway, even if you're not even looking for a relationship, it's good to find out where you are because it's putting you in that place of empowerment. Anyway, it's a really cool checklist. I like it. I was writing the questions early and I was like, because
Yay.
they're all things I've done myself. I've walked it, I've talked it. I know that I deal with a lot of people and they're questions we ask ourselves all the time. They're good. So yeah, so it's a little freebie. It's just a 2-page document, very easy to read, bullet points, not complicated, not fussy, and it's there if you want it.
All right, we will put the link below. And Jo, where can they find you on socials or website if they actually want some coaching to help get more relationship ready?
I am on Joanne Webb on Facebook, and I've got the Happiness Hustler, but you can probably get me more on my other one, Joanne Webb, and I'm the _Happiness Hustler on Instagram. Yay! So contact me, DM me, and my email address is thehappinesshustler@gmail.com.
Amazing. And I guess for me, my specialty would be more helping them in the dating stage. It's Match Me mentoring. And that's more around what are you saying? What are you wearing? Where are you taking her? Okay, how did she respond? Okay, what do that kind of thing. Like a little bit of hand holding in the, I'm going to call it the courting stage, which is pretty exciting. And if people want to check out Match Me, if you know someone who is relationship ready, maybe it's you, between the ages of 30 to 70, this is New Zealand wide. So don't be fooled by my Canadian accent, where this is in New Zealand, possibly going wider in the future. But at the moment, New Zealand, you can check it out, matchme.co.nz. I'll put the link below. And also on Instagram, newly on Instagram, matchme_matchmaking. And you can follow me, Up Your Brave, on Instagram as well as Facebook for both of those, Match Me and Up Your Brave on Facebook. Amazing. Jo, thank you for joining me today for this incredible conscious conversation.
It's been beautiful as always, Nat. It's always so much fun. And you know what? We just want to do these things with heart, don't we? Want people to be happy. That's my little dream. I feel like a parent to the whole world. I just want people to be happy. And there's so much joy in relationships when we know how to do it. And sometimes it is just a little bit of education, a little bit of self-reflection because we're not taught this stuff. So and that's okay. So if you can be happy in love, that makes me even happier.
And never too late to learn this stuff we have not been taught. Thank you,
Mm.
everyone, for joining us. Comment below and share it with your friends. Thanks.